It was called the Puritanic work ethic. So all over Europe and later America, this was how Christian principles were taught, and how the Christians in the marketplace, in politics, in the professions, in entertainment, were able to influence their societies and establish righteousness everywhere they were found. No wonder then that in those nations, stealing of public funds, bribery and corruption were the exception, and certainly not the rule. The church itself condemned dishonest practices and corruption openly. It was clear that you could not bring money, which was the proceeds of corruption, near the church, because hard work and productivity and integrity were the only acceptable ways of acquiring wealth as a Christian. Any sudden or unexplained wealth would lead to ostracization. You will be ostracized from the church if you were found to have money that you couldn't explain. The church in that era also preached the egalitarian notions of liberty, of justice, of fairness and equality. The pulpits teaching from Genesis 1 verse 27 that God created man in his own image meant that all men were equal before God, and all the laws and actions must protect that equality. It was these principles that established the principles of fundamental human rights, the Universal Declaration of Rights, and equal treatment under the law. In the same way, they preached what then became the founding principles of the rule of law. And this is found in Deuteronomy 17, verse 18 to 20, that the king himself must obey the law, so that no one is above the law. How about taking care of the poor? How about taking care of the poor and the vulnerable? The Puritan preachers reminded their congregations that even in the Old Testament, God made it abundantly clear that caring for the poor was non-negotiable for his people, and that he will bless those who did so. In Deuteronomy 15, verse 7 to 11, lays out God's heart. And he says, if there is among you a poor man of your brethren, within any of the gates in your land, which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall open your hand wide to him, and willingly to lend him sufficient for his need, whatever he needs. Indeed, the only context where God promises to bless all that you do is when you are given to the poor. Deuteronomy 15, verse 10. This theme echoes throughout Scripture. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. Proverbs 19:17. If you spend yourselves on behalf of the hungry, and you satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness. Isaiah 58, verse 10. God ties our light, our healing, and our blessing to how we treat the hungry and the afflicted. So the Puritans preached. They preached on their pulpits that the early Christians considered the welfare of the poor a cornerstone